it was pretty solid, you know.
Okay. I got the note from Katrina concerned that you may not have been able to do this.
Oh, well, two things have happened in the last 24 hours. We've had the series of storms over the last 2 days, but we've also had an increase in lockdowns happening in the Brisbane and the southeast Queensland area. So they've gone back to level 2 masks and 4 square metres per person, etc. But we've also had an increase in lockdowns happening in the Brisbane.
We're getting
Peter and I are trying to set up YouTube, and it's running both on my machine right now.
Oh, that's what it is. Okay.
Right.
Peter, after you sent out the invitations to Steve yesterday, were there any updates after that?
Yeah, there's probably been about 10 of them that I've sent out one by one.
Oh, okay, because I was getting calls last night about 10 o'clock saying, I'm looking for an invitation.
Yeah, well, some people may not have got the email. When that many go out, spam filters get really aggressive. But what I do now for these meetings is the link is on the meetings page when the meeting is in progress.
Okay.
So if you can just tell anybody if they haven't got the link, go to the meetings page and it will be visible there.
All right.
The calling notice I got about a week ago said it would be 1 o'clock UK time. So there might be some more from Probus Club of Enfield because it said 1 London time. I've only turned this on at 12:30 UK time to experiment with a different computer, and obviously it works and I've come through, but that's why I'm early. So I don't know what time you intended to start, but you may get some more members from England after 1 o'clock in our time, which is now 25 minutes forward.
Oh, what it was, we just started 7:30. I on the notice had I'm open at 7:30. Meeting starts at 8, and that would be whatever 5 wherever you are. You have 5 hours.
Experiment with a different computer, and obviously it's worked, and I've come through. But that's why I'm early. So I don't know what time you intended to start, but you may get some more members. Time delay after 1 o'clock in our time.
Peter's got it running on his now.
Oh, what it was.
Okay, Peter, you got to shut down the. We get that same feedback I did when you got both running.
Yeah, actually, what I'm trying to do is embed the video, but the video owner has disabled that, so I won't embed it. You're not allowing embedded video from your YouTube channel.
Yeah, well, I just turned it on. Must be a default.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not important. Otherwise, I was going to embed it right on the meetings page so people would just see it.
Oh,
but it is.
So for you guys, it's the 1st of October today, isn't it?
Yes.
It is, yes.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's rabbits, or whatever it is.
That's April. April is white rabbits.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, first.
So it's just a pinch. It's just a pinch and a punch for the 1st of the month for you guys.
Yeah.
That's it.
Pinch and a punch.
So can I just ask, while there's only a few of us here, how's the weather been in where you are in Canada for a start?
Well, it's been up and down summer. We had some of the most gorgeous days ever, and then we had some bad rains and winds and cooler temperatures. So, but today it's cold and cloudy and misty where I am. I'm about 150 miles north of where Dick is, and a little bit more north of where Peter is. So how are you doing down there, Dick?
Well, the sun hasn't come up yet, so that's a good sign. This morning it was 6 degrees C. So
all right,
it's getting cooler in the mornings, and yesterday it was about 15 degrees in the afternoon. So we're going through the fall weather, and sunset now comes around, I would think, about 7:30 or so. So the days are getting shorter.
really rough news for you, Dick. It's about 7 o'clock now.
Well, I was at the pub after golf, so I may have missed what was happening outside.
I can understand that.
So, Mike, are you recording the barometric pressure in the background there on a daily basis?
Yeah, I've got two. It's about 10-20 millibars on that one, and yeah, 10-19 on that one.
Oh, I'm glad there's not a big difference. You'd be having quite a storm between you and
That's true. Even more accurate one downstairs, but
and you have valves there as well. Does that mean you're into electronics or?
yeah, I've got a couple of valve amplifiers, yeah, which work very well. The things at the back are from steam trains.
And for audio or what are you using your amplifiers for?
Music.
Music, yeah.
Yeah.
Where are you located, Mike? What part of the UK?
London.
In London?
North of London in Enfield.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, time here, as I said, is 20 to 1 o'clock. Weather's not bad. Been blitzing with rain. The only problem we've got, as you probably see in your newspapers, is no petrol anywhere. My son's been out for hours. My wife's been. We've got no petrol. It's terrible.
I saw a great cartoon yesterday. Boris Johnson was on the phone with the Queen, and he's saying, I hear that you drove a lorry during the war. And she's saying, yes, why do you ask?
Yes, absolutely.
I thought that was great.
So, Steve, where does the fuel come from?
No, what it is there's plenty of fuel, but because of Brexit, there's a lot of people at the top of industry who are very anti the fact we've left Europe. So last Thursday, they leaked an internal memo that said we might run out of fuel because there's no lorry drivers. That was put on ITV, which is one of our main users. So because they put that on ITV saying we'd run out of petrol, everybody went out to buy petrol. And the point is the supply system can't cope if everybody wants petrol. So that's it. There's no petrol. There is petrol, but there aren't drivers because the Poles won't come here anymore. The Czechs won't come here. All the people who work for cheap prices, labour wages, aren't allowed to come under the post-Brexit rules. And the Brits won't work for the low salary. So unless the petrol companies and the food companies pay more money, which they don't wish to do, we will be in this terrible spiral between now and Christmas of running out of everything.
So I hope you've got a lot of loo rolls, toilet rolls.
We have, yes. The Palos family have, yes.
Hog rolls.
That's true. Some of the cartoons here have been really good because we've had problems with some of our truck drivers as well. And so there was a cartoon the other day here saying petrol is short, but the fellow was surrounded by toilet rolls. He said, at least we've got toilet rolls.
Yeah.
Just crazy. It's all crazy.
They were on sale on the weekend.
Where's the sanity gone?
They were on sale on the weekend, and Jane came home with a big pile of them. I said, are we expecting another lockdown?
That's true.
That's Rob Neary from Probus Station, Queensland.
Oh, yeah. But the trouble is, if you run short of anything, it affects the whole way you exist. All these minor things that we take for granted, shampoos, you name it, if you run out of it, you can cope. But petrol is difficult because the care workers, the medical staff, nobody can get to work. And it's back to the 70s when it happened in England previously. It is very ridiculous. My son has got to go to Luton Airport. He's a pilot. I've had to fill him up with Aspen petrol, which I use for my chainsaw. Otherwise, he wouldn't have enough to get to the garage. It's ridiculous.
Wow. Yeah.
Hello, Chris.
Hello, Michael. How are you?
Very well. Another English are saying they'll all join because of the 1 o'clock calling time.
That's the one. I didn't fancy 7 a.m. in the morning.
Quite right.
Chris, your audio is very loud, Chris.
All right, I'll turn it down.
No,
Is that better? Is that better?
Perfect.
Yeah.
Just time for a cup of tea.
ah,
Thank you.
Ah,
So Steve, did you actually get that file down?
Yeah, it's here. I have it running, I believe.
All right, that's all right. I just thought you could convert that to a video and put that up if you wanted to at the end of it, right? Just
Good morning.
good morning, Sharon.
Good morning. How are you? How's everybody?
Very good indeed.
Good, thanks. I just stepped outside to put something in my mailbox. It's freezing.
oh,
I guess that's a sign of the times.
It is indeed, yes. Before I started this, the dog got to walk and was very brisk.
Yeah. Here, I should change mine to Newmarket too.
and you see we're the opposite, because at the minute what happens is we're at the towards the end of spring, and we'll be moving into summer soon. So
Mhm.
we've got October, November, and I just checked the outside temperature before, and it's roughly 9:45 p.m. and the outside temperature was 12
Hmm.
Celsius. So
When I visited Australia in 1989 with my late husband, we went to Melbourne about this time of year.
yeah, well, the weather
It's
can do
nice.
anything in Melbourne.
No, pardon?
Well, it's a bit like England. They say, in Melbourne, what you do is you make sure you walk out with some kind of coat or jumper and your umbrella, right? And make sure you've got sunscreen in your bag.
Hmm.
My sister lives in Melbourne with
Yeah.
her family.
Sorry?
I was just saying my sister lives in Melbourne.
Oh, does she?
Yeah, from Canada. She's from Canada, of course, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
My husband's relative's last name, his aunt, there's two aunts live there, but their last name was Jenkinson.
I've climbed Sydney Harbour Bridge.
Ooh,
That's quite an effort.
It was very good. And I also visited Ayers Rock on our travels there. That was superb. Uluru.
Sorry. I missed that. I was putting the blind up, down.
No, I was just saying on my trip to my daughter worked her way across Australia. So we went to Uluru and climbed, we didn't climb Ayers Rock. We went round Ayers Rock, but I did climb Sydney Harbour Bridge, which was a present. And that was actually very amazing. When you're at the top of the bridge, I digress, you look
Yeah.
back on the town, on Sydney itself, there's a teeny weeny church, which is sort of like an inch high, and the skyscrapers go up to the moon. And the guy said, when this bridge was built, this teeny church was the biggest building in Sydney. And you think in that period, all of Sydney had grown up. Incredible visit.
Sydney is lovely because we went there on a little side trip. Sydney Harbor is beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, I guess, Lynn, the colours of your trees must be fantastic in Ontario.
Not yet. It's still early. Well, it's in for Northern Ontario. It might be. I'm looking at the tree outside my window, and it's got a little bit of yellow on, but not much. We're 11 degrees today, and it's going up to 19. And I plan on going for a swim because I'm one of those crazy Canucks that we say we'll do anything. So that's about it for me. In my tea.
Mm.
Yeah, we came up to Toronto with my wife, rest her soul, in October, end of October, and went to Niagara Falls, and the colours were just absolutely staggering.
Yeah.
Lynn, we've just finished here in Toowoomba, which is 146 kilometres northwest of Brisbane. we've just had our Carnival of Flowers month
Oh,
running.
oh,
So
beautiful.
the council here does a great job planting all the gardens out and tending them. And this year, as in previous years, the flowers decided that they would come a little early. And so the council guys were all running around picking the buds off things so that they'd actually have the flowers at the time that they actually wanted them. But all down the streets, they've got, you know, flowering plums and flowering chanticleers, which are flowering pears. They don't actually form fruit, but they get the pink or the white flowers on them. And so you get a whole avenue of flowered trees, you know, coming up. And the jacaranda tree is about probably 3 weeks away from bursting into flower all over the place here. So that'll be rather nice as well. So, you know, it's spring here, which is really nice. And we actually do get the seasons up here in Toowoomba, which is one of the nice things about being on a hill. We can't call it a mountain. It's, you know, too small. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Silvana. How are you?
Good evening. It's about 10 p.m. here, or close to it, Rob. Hello, everybody.
that's true.
How are you?
Hi.
Hello, Savannah.
Hi, everybody.
Happy Probus Day, Probus evening,
Yes.
Probus morning, whatever's going on. Peter, I love your background.
Yes, thanks to Rob. If I get out of the way, it says day underneath there.
Yeah. I think Monica from my team put that together yesterday or the day before. So you're very up to date. Well done. Well done.
I got to be up to date there. I see Bob McNair, President of Probus Canada, is with us as well. I don't know if you know Silvana, Bob.
Oh, hi, Bob. How you going?
Good day. Good morning, everyone. We just mentioned again, of course, it's International Probus Day. For most of us here, of course, that means that we won't be doing anything particularly special. Very few clubs have been able to meet at all. We're having some hybrid. Our own board of directors will be having a hybrid meeting this Tuesday. 4 people are unable to come from British Columbia, Alberta, and New Brunswick, but we will be meeting in a room. And as far as the International Day, we did have it in our newsletter. We did share it with all of our 253 clubs, ask them to share it with their members of something they could hopefully be aware of. But as we know, it's challenging for all of us, but perhaps in another year, there'll be a greater celebration. But we really appreciate it. Began in Australia, something we're all aware of now. So hopefully, whether it's 10 p.m. at night or 8 in the morning here, or whatever time it is, wherever any of you are today, it's a day to at least reflect and think and that we are growing as a society internationally within our country. So it's really a wonderful day. Hopefully you all have a nice day.
Yeah, it's wonderful, isn't it? That's got to be the goal, isn't it, Bob? It's got to be the goal to everybody celebrating Probus all over the world on the same day. That would be amazing, wouldn't it?
Yes. And so again, we have an opportunity to build from now into the future. We in Canada, though, we do have a Probus month in terms of what we do here. We celebrate either March or April. That's been an annual thing since 2013. But it is something we're going to make all of our clubs aware that there is going to be an international, not only Seniors Day, but Probus International Day. So we build from here, from last year with Australia beginning. And so hopefully as we go forward, more and more people will not only be a part of Probus Global, but internationally within their own, within their own countries, within their own clubs, recognize the fact that we are all celebrating something together.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Thank you, Rob. Well, just to give you a feeling for today's meeting, we have people registered from South Africa, Europe, obviously UK, Scotland, Ireland, Canada, Australia. I think Rob's here from Australia. Yes, he's still smiling at us. And so we've made it an international meeting, which is great.
Wonderful.
Oh, and Marlene is here. Good morning, Marlene.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Morning, Marlene.
Good morning.
If I may, just carrying on from that Probus Day conversation, Steve, I just sent you something which you may choose to share with everybody, or you may not. But we've had some success both in Australia and New Zealand, and had several landmarks lit up in Probus colours. And not that long ago, I just got through a slideshow sent through of the Sky Tower in Auckland, New Zealand, lit up in marvelously in blue and gold, Probus. So I just sent that slideshow across to Steve, and I thought he may want to share that with everybody a little bit later on or during the presentation. It's totally up to you. But I thought that might be.
There's actually a section, Silvana, about landmarks.
Okay.
So if you're happy, we'll wait till we get to that and then just
yeah. I didn't have
just do that because there's a listing of those landmarks that you sent.
Yes, yeah. No, there's quite a few, but there were only the first colours I just got through on a slideshow a little while ago. So,
well, Gimpy sent me their photos from tonight.
Oh, did you? Oh, fantastic! Yeah, I've got a couple. Yeah, fantastic. That's great.
So,
Richard, I think our challenge should be to get Niagara Falls in Probus colors on October 1st next year.
Or the CN Tower, yes.
Well, I used to know the people that did the colors for the falls, but unfortunately that was 50 years ago. They probably got new people now.
Yeah. Savannah, could you introduce yourself for the people here that may not be aware of your position in
maybe add your name, add it to your name there as well.
Very good.
Yeah, sure. I'm my name's Silvana Martinegro. It's a bit of a mouthful, isn't it? I'm the CEO of Probus South Pacific. So we are the service and support centre for Probus clubs across Australia and New Zealand. So,
and she does a great job.
Some days. It's been a long day today with Probus Day. Started very, very early. Well, but yeah, we have today was a particularly special day. Obviously, we've done a lot of work. We've been in lockdown, actually, pretty severe lockdown. We can't even get to the office, so we've been running the service and support centre from each of our homes. You know, there's about 8 of us in the team providing service and support to about 1,700 clubs across both countries. So. Yeah, we have a lot of fun doing it. Today was a special day. We started the day off with a hybrid meeting with one of our associations in Canberra, and we had about 85 people in that Zoom meeting because obviously not everybody could attend in person. So, you know, there's been a bit of activity even if we've been in lockdown. So that's been an exciting time for us at the moment. I'm really happy to be with all of you, even though it's a bit late at night. Very happy to.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, no, it's great.
Ready, Dick? Nick?
Yes, sir.
You ready?
It's 7:57 on mine, and
okay, we'll give you a minute. Well, we'll start you yes then.
Well, we don't have to play our national anthem or anything like that. So,
well, do you want me to ring the bell?
Thank you.
let's give it 2 more minutes. I got 7:57 on my.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just carrying on. We've been very fortunate in some of the states here. In Queensland, because we haven't been in the severe lockdowns, we've actually been able to charter or found a number of new clubs during the year.
Wow.
And last week, we actually started a new Probus club in Brisbane and in the suburb of Birkdale. And it started with 97 people signing up for the meeting. And that was quite remarkable. And on Wednesday of this coming week, I'm hoping to start another club here in Toowoomba. So I've been working on that. And we've got about 26, 27 people that have signed up and saying that they're coming along. They want to be members. We've actually got membership forms filled in for them. So we'll be actually having a founding meeting then. So we've been quite fortunate that we've been able to continue on and sort of grow Probus, at least here in Queensland, because we haven't had all of the lockdowns that they've had in the southern states. It certainly has made it very difficult, particularly in New South Wales and Victoria. And that's where the majority of clubs are here in Australia, right? Western Australia has been not in lockdown, but I'm not sure whether there's been any new clubs start there. But I know in the last year, I think we've started about 6 all up. So we're still trying to grow Probus here. And you know, it's certainly not made easy by COVID, I can tell you.
Brenda, why don't you give us a little bit of update on your district? I know you had 5 or 6 clubs that were kind of in abeyance until the pandemic was over?
I was in the midst of starting up 6 new clubs in my district. I have 34. I just lost one. It was an older club and they relinquished their charter because they couldn't get people to step up for the management committee. But I've got 6 more coming up, and I had one started. And last April, when COVID hit, I had just got their charter. They were going to have their first meeting, and we had to close down. They had 150 members starting and 100 on the waiting list. So they didn't have any clue what to do, so they had to stop for a while. But we've got them going a little bit with doing things online and having picnics. So we're starting to pick up, thank goodness. So there'll be another club there. So I've got about 7 clubs now that I'm dying to get a turn start up. But until this is all lifted, I can't do it.
That's a great number of members, Brenda. Does it start with right about 100 members, did it? That's fantastic.
Most of my clubs, they're 150 and up.
Okay.
But there's one in Collingwood that Bob McNair has. He has over 600 people in that club.
Yeah.
My highest club is 340 people.
Wow.
Generally across Canada, our average is closer to 150. And I know in Australia and New Zealand, the numbers are more in the 90s and 70s. So we have fewer clubs, but our membership is much higher.
Yeah.
In a town I'm in, it's a town of only 22,000 people in Collingwood, Ontario. I have 10 Probus clubs. 5 of them have 300 members. And there's about 2,200 Probus members in a town of 22,000. But across the country, we average much higher than international numbers.
Yeah.
So we do have a range. We do have some clubs that are in the the 2 digits, but most of them are in the 3. And my largest club has 580 members, Club Probus Valley. So we're quite different. We're quite different from most of the clubs that are part of International Probus. It's quite.
What sort of a turnout do you get, Bob, to those meetings? Presumably, those
in
clubs
most cases, when we're in normal times, the average would still be probably around 50%.
Okay.
Because in Canada here, we have a lot of snowbirds that go south in the winter, and in the summer, cottages, depending where you are in parts of Canada. But I would say on average, it would be unusual for a club such as Beaver Valley they've had 600 members. They would have maybe 250 at a time, but they're all very active clubs doing a lot of activities, either outdoors or doing things together indoors. So very active, but the numbers, I know when Richard has put them together, whether it's in Belgium or it's in New Zealand or it's in Australia, we're quite different that way.
Yeah,
for
very
some
high.
reason, Australia should have big numbers because you're a big country too. But it's almost like we have to think big, like why? However, that's just the way it is here. I have clubs with 140, 150. They're worried they're going to close because they don't have enough members. We're saying you're thriving with 150.
Yeah, it's a bit of a different. I think our largest club here has got about 260 members, but very much driven by venues and where they can meet and all that sort of stuff. So, but that's really interesting.
Can I welcome Nick from South Africa? Good morning, Nick.
Yeah, good day, everybody. It's actually afternoon where I am at the moment, but good to see you all.
Good morning, Nick.
We also have Gauthier de Lavendere from Belgium.
Hello.
Good morning, Gauthier.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you.
Good morning, Gauthier.
Hello, Gauthier. Good morning. Yes, it's good afternoon for you.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
It's afternoon for Nick as well.
Yeah. Gauthier is from Belgium, for those that don't know him, but he's known worldwide. So I'm guessing that I had to do that.
Thank you.
We're not sure, Richard, whether it's fame or infamy.
We won't go there, Rob.
I was just flabbergasted at the idea that a club has 150, 350, 600 members. We couldn't cope with that. If we call for a venue nationally, people say, well, 600, we can't cope with that.
That may be an idea for a future meeting like this, is to discuss the framework of clubs around the world and how different parts of the world could help other sections. So that may be a future thought.
Yeah.
Well, we've come up a little past 8 o'clock, Steve. Are we ready to become official?
Yeah.
Okay, good morning, everybody. I'm Richard Furlong, Probus Global. Thank you for joining us. We have members today, obviously, from around the world, Australia, right through to South Africa. We did have invitations to India. I'm not sure if they joined us or not, or will later. But today, it's our official Probus Day around the globe. So welcome, everybody. There's a few logistics we should go through. Steve, if you could put up the logistical. A couple of reminders as we go through the meeting. Please keep your audio muted at all times. If you have an issue, this meeting is recorded, so if you have an issue with having your ID or your picture up, you can blank out your video. And when we go to the Q&A section later, during the meeting, you can pose questions on the chat option. Certainly, as we go through it, a no-no is do not share your screen. And please, because if you're visible and you move around, that will be a little bit of a distraction. So once again, stop your video. And as I mentioned earlier, this is being recorded and will be put on our website for later viewing and for distribution. So moving on. The agenda today is Rob will talk about Probus Day around the world, and Probus Day in Australia in particular. And then we'll go to a Q&A, which I'm sure will be very live and very fruitful in everybody's thoughts and comments. And we have some topics that we like to make sure we get into, and we can go through those later. But without further ado, we'll move over to Australia. And Rob Neary, who is the president of Probus Association of Queensland. And also, Rob is a management team member of Probus Global. Very involved individual, and thank you very much for doing this, Rob. So, Rob, you're on. Thank you.
I followed the instructions and actually muted myself right there. Well, welcome all. I wanted to give a little bit of a history today about the Probus Day and how it came about. In fact, I remember sitting in a management meeting for the Probus Association back in 2017 when Judith Mastrasi actually made the suggestion to the president at the time that perhaps we should have a special day for Probus clubs and that something should be done. Unfortunately, at that stage, that particular president had an agenda of her own that meant that it didn't actually happen. And so it was something that was always in the background. And fortunately, when Judith joined the Probus South Pacific team, she was able to talk with Silvana and the team down there and actually convince them of the merit of it. And so last year, 2020, the Probus South Pacific team actually encouraged all the clubs to use October 1, which is the United Nations Day of the Older Person, and to celebrate that as Probus Day. So what I have for you this evening, this morning, this afternoon, wherever you are, is just a little run through of what's been happening. I sent an email out to my 145 clubs about a week ago saying, I know that you're all doing something. Can you let me know what you're doing? So some of them have sent me back an indication of what they're actually doing. But I thought we'd start with just a few things that have been happening. And I thought I'd share my screen, right, for doing that. So I have a little PowerPoint presentation. It's only 11 slides or so, but many of the photos actually came in this evening. And in fact, I was glad that we weren't starting too early because I was still building the PowerPoint presentation, as Steve knows, because he's had 2 tonight, haven't you, Steve? All right. So if I go, just bear with me for a moment. I need to share my screen. So we'll share the sound with it. And we'll just run this for the moment. So now I'm very pleased that Silvana has joined with us, because Silvana's team put the graphic that you see behind there together. And it's a really wonderful graphic. If you notice through the word Probus, there are people of the world that are there. So in Queensland, what happened was I asked a number of the clubs to let me know what you're doing for Probus Month or Probus Day. And so our Metro West Probus clubs were having something on today. That was actually having today. And they even sent me some photos of that. So they were having a picnic, and they'd invited some 7 clubs in that area. Over on this side, we've got Probus Day Picnic, and this was on the west side of Brisbane, and these were on the north side of Brisbane. They were having it. And also today, the Probus flag was flying in Toowoomba over the council area called the Village Green area. So they actually had the Probus flag showing. We'll have a better shot of that. For Probus Day, for Probus Month, actually Silvana's group produced some really worthwhile creative pieces. So we had a thing come out saying celebration ideas that came out. On this side, there was an invitation that was sent out to the clubs to say, you could send this out to members or get members to send it to their friends and actually invite them along to the club to spend something. So these are 2 really good little bits of creative material that would be useful for clubs. And I'm quite sure that Silvana won't mind sharing them, right, in terms of if people around the place wanted to use them. The other thing which they did do, which I thought was really, really lovely, was they produced a special certificate, which was to say, we'd like to thank you for your dedication and enthusiasm and support for Probus. And this could be awarded to any member of a Probus club. So I felt that was a really nice gesture that clubs could do, and a great bit of art and creative produced by Probus South Pacific. So thank you to that group for doing it. So here we've got a sample of some of the things that happened. We had one of our North Queensland clubs, they shot this down to, they had a picnic today. It was actually sunny up there, right? So that was working well. There's a number of the Probus clubs in Toowoomba that are having a luncheon day. And so what happens is, this is the area that was set up for the luncheon that's happening actually next week. We went into there and they said, this is how we're going to set that up. This was the picnic. And so there were some photos come back. They had some skill test of throwing things in. They ran a barbecue for the day, ran simple things like quoit games. What they had to do was to throw, I think it was a balloon of water and get it through the hole in this little thing here. But that was Chermside Probus Club, that's on the north side of Brisbane, actually put that together. And so there have been similar kinds of activities that have been happening in the clubs, right, to celebrate that. Gympie, which is a small town, along the coast, they actually talked to the council, and these 2 photos were taken tonight and sent in for the presentation. So we can actually see the street lights that were sent. This is the club members, and they actually their photo was taken tonight. And so the council did all of the street lights doing that. So that was a really simple and very easy task, right, for them to do. They get along well with the council, and they're able to convince it. Last year, the council did it for one night. This time they're going to do it for a week. So often, just asking your local councils or your local government will actually do things. And in fact, in Bundaberg, which is the home of Bundaberg rum, for those people that enjoy tipple, right? The Bundaberg Council actually got the waters in their fountains changed to a blue as well. But not only that, there were vacant shops and in the town, in the main street. So the Probus Club actually contacted a number of the owners and set up displays for Probus in those shops. And that to me is quite innovative. That can actually be done. You may have malls or shopping centres or whatever, or even strip centres where that could be done as a way of promoting Probus. So remember that the whole idea of Probus Month, Probus Day, is to actually promote Probus as well. So Bundaberg, which is up the coast. So one of the, Richard would know Katrina from the Kalula coast. They actually had a barbecue today, except the problem is it was raining, but they had a morning tea and they were giving away some of the stickers that we'd produced for Probus as a way of trying to promote it. So they had quite a good day, except it was spoiled a bit by the rain that came today. But obviously, tea and scones went down very well with their people. And Katrina said to me there was the most enjoyable day except for the rain. One of the other clubs, those Metro West clubs, were actually putting on a day at a football club. And these were some of the Probus members and some of the acts were there. I wasn't sent any, by the way, with men in them. So I'm not being sexist. These were the 3 photos that I was sent. So they actually entertained themselves and obviously had a great day, right? Celebrating Probus Day and whatever. And there was something like about 7 clubs that were at that. So they'd put something together. One of the clubs had done a little bit of work, talked with the other clubs, and then they did their own entertainment for the day. Here we have Toowoomba, and we can see the flags flying. This is a bit of a close-up for that. But also tonight, on one of the bridges through the town, they actually changed the lights to Probus Blue. So that was one of the landmarks, and that brings us to some of the things. And Steve, you might want to get that presentation ready for the New Zealand ones in a minute, and I'll switch to you. But here's Toowoomba. This bridge leads, it's a new diversion. That's the Toowoomba railway station in the back. And so what happens is that's showing tonight in Probus Blue, and the flag will fly for the next week, I believe, over the council property. So there is a Probus flag. And one of the things that Probus South Pacific has been able to organise, and particularly Judith talking to the Brisbane City Council, and they actually control the lighting up of major structures. And so here we have the Story Bridge, which is a major bridge in Brisbane, and also the new Victoria Bridge. And they are actually coming up later this month. They'll actually be switched on with the actual Probus blue and gold colours. So here's a photo of them in those kind of colours. And there are other structures that they've actually done, other landmarks that have been put together, not just in Queensland, in other places. So this could be done in your provinces, you know, as an idea of getting people to actually, you know, to talk about it. You can get a little bit of PR in terms of TV stations and radio stations there about that. So just before I switch to Steve and that thing that has come in from New Zealand, here's a list in terms of by the states around Australia and also New Zealand about the things that they're going to do in terms of lighting up landmarks. And that might be something that you could do because despite the lockdowns and the restrictions, right, governments will support that. This whole process of getting a lot of government support, both at local government level, state government level, and federal level, started last year when many of the organisations, I know Probus South Pacific wrote off to all of the federal members of Parliament, encouraging them and writing them, telling them a story about Probus and what it was offering to the seniors and in the community. I wrote off to all of the state parliamentarians, that's equivalent to your provincial government. And then also I wrote off to all of the local councils, talking to them about Probus Month or Probus Day last year. And then this year, the Probus South Pacific wrote off to all of those levels of government, speaking about Probus Month. And in fact, one of the things that Silvana didn't tell you is that through all of their efforts last year, right, in writing to all of those levels of government, the Seniors Week, which traditionally was in August, in the second or the third week in August, was actually changed in a number of states, including Queensland, from August to October to line up with October month, Probus month, and also the celebration of Probus Day. And that's quite an achievement, as you can imagine, to get all those levels of government, right, to be prepared to actually make the switch. So that was really good. So one of the things that I'm going to challenge is what's happening where you are to celebrate Probus Day or Probus month. And perhaps, Steve, if I can hand back to you, if I'll stop sharing, maybe you've got those photos from New Zealand that you could show.
Yep. Oh.
How are we going?
Can't find the silly. This is weird. Got it there.
All right, Steve, I'll chat on a bit if that's
Okay.
it. So, Silvana, can I throw it to you? You'll need to put your mic on, right? Would you like to add anything to that presentation?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Rob. We're absolutely so amazed about how our community the Probus community in Australia and New Zealand has embraced Probus Day. Rob Neary is absolutely right. It was the brainchild of our now chairman, Judith Mastrasi, and it's taken a significant amount of work to make it happen. But it is humbling to see all levels of government embracing Probus, because they know the value of those social connections and they know how important it is. And you only, as Rob says, you only need to ask about the landmarks and look how many we were able to get lit up and how many Probus flags have been flying across everywhere. And just as we're talking now, I'm getting directors sending through lightings. I've just received a couple of videos of lightings in Western Australia and stuff in Tasmania. So it is absolutely wonderful to see. And I'm just really, really encouraged. And Rob's right, the collateral that we produced at the virtual meeting I mentioned earlier, where they had over 85 people, 21 Probus Day awards were issued to members, and not just management committee members, but all those members that are in the background helping out. And it was wonderful to see members being recognised that way through those Probus Day awards.
And I think that what's important too, Silvana, is this gives Probus an opportunity to actually showcase what it actually does in the community in terms of providing a really good social experience for retirees and semi-retired people. Because I think what happens is these days there's so much focus on youth, right? And on people with disability and those sorts of things, that I think the focus on we older people gets lost every now and again. And if we're not going to do it, there's other groups aren't going to do it. I think Probus can actually take the lead in this, right, in terms of actually bringing a spotlight, at least for a month or at least a day or a week or whatever you can do in your area, right, for seniors, just to say we're here, because, I mean, we are a large portion of all electorates now. You have to remember that.
Correct, Bob. Yeah, you're absolutely correct. And I think there's, a lot of focus when people are planning their retirement. I mean, a lot of focus is put so much on your financial well-being and not enough on that social well-being. And if COVID's taught us anything, it's taught us that, this technology stuff is great, but it can only do so much. It is those face-to-face social connections that people really need in their lives. And we've got to use Probus Month we've got to generate that awareness all the time and continually share that message. But I think Probus Month gives us an opportunity to really highlight, particularly with government and the wider community, about the significant role that we can play to help mature members of society, stay socially engaged. That's what it's all about.
I have the video ready to go.
Fantastic.
Right.
Thought I did.
Wow, that looks great, doesn't it? Absolutely fabulous. And I'm sure that there are landmarks in your province, in your town, that could be lit up in the Probus Club, in the Probus colours when it comes to maybe October of 2022. Richard, that's it for me, mate. You're on mute. I'll take any questions.
Everybody's on mute.
Yeah, I'm off mute. Yes.
There you go.
Everybody was very keen when I was on mute, but they didn't have to hear from me. Yes.
All right. Nick has asked me a question and said, may have a copy of the slide presentation. I've actually sent one to Steve, but Nick, I'm happy to send one to you. What I will do is I'll put it up on OneDrive and then share it and send you a link sharing, and then you can download it because it's about 25 meg, I think. Steve, is that correct?
I'm not going to switch from the screen to find out right now.
No, that's all right. But I think it's about 28 meg, but if you want to download, you're most welcome to.
And this recorded video will be on YouTube probably by Monday. So anybody who wants to see the entire meeting can watch it later.
Sure. Are there any other questions from anyone?
Sorry, Rob, we might include in that, and we'll send you, I think you'll have the files, but we can include all our Probus Day collateral if you're all interested in seeing that as well and utilising that for next year.
All right.
Rob, I had a question that's on the chat line. Have we ever had any communications with the United Nations?
I'm unaware of that, Richard, to be very honest with you. I certainly haven't taken that up with them. It could be something that we could follow through on, right? The issue is to what effect, what would we be hoping to get from them? Because it is their Day of the Older Person. It's a gazetted day from them. I'm not sure what we might be able to get other than if we did some PR and maybe they'll put that in, say, an announcement or something that they put out about it. We could probably structure up some kind of PR statement or media statement sent to them. They may be interested to include that.
Correct. On their website, I went in and went to their general communication channel, but never did get a reply from them. And here in Canada, there's a department with the Canadian government for seniors.
All right.
And I sent them a communication about a week ago, but never did get any replies. So I think that's something to follow up for in the future.
Yes. And I think the strategy that was followed here, remember last year, we're talking about 2020, Probus South Pacific. So in this case, it'll be probably Bob's, remit here, was to write to all of the federal members of parliament, to let them know, now you've got an election that's on, having just been or wherever, and what happens is people are probably looking for ways to curry favour. But maybe what happens is if you were to, from Probus Canada, to write to the federal parliamentarians, and then perhaps your directors maybe could have a standard letter that they could send off to the provincial government to promote Probus to the provincial governments. And I'm unaware about sort of local city governments, but, in most cities we'll have some kind of local government there that could actually, I found that the best idea was to try to find who was the community liaison person there. And when I wrote off to all the councils, I actually sought the name of the community liaison person and then actually directed a letter and emails back to that person, encouraging them to think about that. But I must admit that PSPL had done quite a number of media statements. They'd actually prepared media statements, which I could then use in those letters going out. And I'm quite sure if you were to ask Silvana very, very nicely, she might be prepared to make that as well. But it was made a lot easier by having some of those. Now, even if Bob had those as president of Probus Canada and then said, well, we'll, make them Canadian, we'll use Canadian language to them and whatever, then what happens is you can adapt them and then that gives you something to do it. This year it was much better because PSPL actually undertook to do that to all those levels of government. And that meant that there was one voice speaking for Probus in Australia. And I would advocate that. That's a good way to have it happen.
Yeah,
because it doesn't confuse the message.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, Rob. Yeah, we're happy to share all of that stuff. I think it is really helpful, as you say, to have that one voice. And we have, we timed, if I may, just Rob, we timed our media releases. So, there's always something that we're talking to them about. We started talking to them about Probus Day a few months ago. And even today, we issued media releases with our Probus Day video, which we'll share with you guys as well. And about the lighting of landmarks last week. And we'll share another one with them in a couple of weeks and put all the landmark lightings together as well. So there's always an opportunity. Every time there's an opportunity to talk to government about something that's going on in Probus, we do let them know, because that just helps generate awareness.
Good, thank you.
Are there any other questions, Richard, or anyone?
Why don't we unmute everybody so we can open up for discussion?
Sure. Okay.
Okay, somebody's.
So, Brenda?
You'll have to.
Somebody say something.
That was all right.
I was gonna say that our clubs, I find that when they're a smaller club, I think it's more intimate and people enjoy it more. Some of these large clubs, like 300, 400, 500, 600, I don't know how you could know everybody and get to know people and have, well, you have fun, obviously, but I think it's more intimate with smaller clubs, personally.
Sure.
And also it's because of the venues as well. A lot of venues cannot hold that many people.
Well, can I ask you, as president of Probus Canada, would you think would writing out to all the federal and provincial governments be considered as not in the remit of Probus?
I have to really give that a thought. I think we would discuss that with the board of directors to see the direction we will go in the future. As I mentioned earlier, some people may not have been there. We've been celebrating Probus Month since 2013, and certainly we'd like to connect with the October 1st date. But what traditionally has been happening is it's a reflection on Probus for clubs individually. We've had it in March. We've done it to April. I mentioned earlier, many people leave Canada as seniors during the winter months and some during the summer. So it gives us an opportunity to reflect. Our vice president right now, who is Brenda, she coordinates reaching out to all the clubs in terms of Probus Month. And we do have town councils. We do it more on the local level at this point. So town councils proclaiming a proclamation about Probus Month in a particular town, or flying the flag for a month. That's done in many locations. Sure. But to celebrate over that period of time, but it's certainly something I think we should think about as a group, board of directors, if we start to go that direction to make it more and more aware. We do have only our 253 clubs, but we had up to 40,000 members. We're not as large as South Pacific, but we certainly are growing, and the interest has been, as Brenda mentioned, we've got several clubs. Hopefully will be returning or will be added to our list. But I do like the idea, something to discuss with the board members, how we will proceed in the future, because October 1st for next year, we could certainly build towards that. But our main celebration has been traditionally in Canada, March and April.
Yeah. And
again, as Brenda mentioned, the intimacy, I have thoughts of that as well. I mentioned the club was 600. A few years ago, they took a vote and refused to break up. They felt close enough. They actually have a brochure with a picture of every member. So even though they're large, a club can have 8 clubs as opposed to 1 or 2. They can have 5 bike groups as opposed to 1, but they still meet together. So on a monthly basis, but when it comes to intimacy, they're still sharing among themselves. Again, it might be a card game. Well, instead of one, there's 5. So we still handle it that way. I know how different it must sound to some people in another country where your average is maybe 40 people. We saw a picture there in New Zealand where the club was out in front of the, in the evening, and that was probably its full membership. That would maybe be in a Canadian club, that might be just the book club. So we certainly approach it from a little different view. Why we've grown the way we have, I honestly can't tell you. But it was mentioned earlier about the venues. That large club actually meets in a community center where there's an arena. Some of the smaller clubs, a lot of clubs meet in churches, and I'm sure it's the same for clubs in any country. But it is curious when Richard provided the details of the average club size in different countries. I was quite shocked, to be honest with you, the size of our clubs compared to clubs in other countries. But I do appreciate the idea of going forward and perhaps looking at contacting the way we do it here, both provincially with a member of parliament, provincial parliament, and the federal parliament. I do think it's something we should look into. So thanks.
Can I just add though? Let's call spades shovels here.
Okay.
The purpose of having a Probus month or a Probus day, right, is really to promote Probus.
Oh, it is.
Right? Because we all have aging clubs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, many of our clubs still have the same problem that they're not getting youthful members coming into it. And the common thing is, well, I've never heard of Probus. What's Probus?
Exactly.
So really, let's call it for what it is. This is an opportunity really for you to broadcast Probus loud and clear into the communities. So it is an opportunity, large clubs, small clubs, that doesn't really matter, right? But it is an opportunity that you can use to really trumpet Probus as a seniors club, to look after the seniors in the area. So Nick, what would, in your place, in South Africa, could you use something like a Probus month?
Yes, absolutely. There's just so much to take on board here. Our socioeconomic situation here is very different to North America, Canada, New Zealand, Australia. First of all, you talk about getting cooperation from municipalities to light up street lights and so on. Well, I mean, here, first of all, the municipalities have got absolutely no money whatsoever because they're all bankrupt. And secondly, what money they do have available goes towards trying to support and provide basic services to disadvantaged communities. So we haven't tackled anything like that yet, but I'm quite excited about what I've seen so far. And that's why I requested the presentation, because one of the things I'm planning on doing in November is having, for our area in the Western Cape, which is 26 clubs, a seminar for all the presidents. We're going to come together for a day. We're going to present ideas, and I want to throw this concept to them and see if we can light a few fires, because unfortunately, I think relative to what I've heard today, we're kind of smoldering here, and we really need to fan the flames a bit. So yeah, there's quite a long way to go. So I'd be most grateful for these sort of materials. I mean, that video clip of the Auckland Tower is amazing. And I think this will blow people away and make them realize that we need to step up and do a lot more than what we're doing at the moment.
Gautier, could I ask you, in Belgium, right, do you do a similar thing? Do you have like a Probus focus?
No, it's non-existent as such. There is occasionally at the occasion of a national day or a regional day, we connect to the government, generally to the local government of the town where it's being held. And either, for instance, we invite a governor of a province or a burgomaster, and in that sense, we're known, we're being linked, but it's not systematic.
So
for instance,
is there an opportunity to maybe do it for the entire country?
Well, we organize a national day in theory. We used to do it every year. Now we're down to a national day every 2 years. And the in-between year, we organize in the 6 areas. Each area organizes a regional day. So at those opportunities, I think in one area better than in another, we can focus the attention of government or city government.
All right. Robert, can I ask, Robert's from Wales. Rob, are you with me? You need to unmute yourself, Rob.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're a small fry, really. I've been listening quite intently to the things about lighting up things, and that's good. I am a little bit concerned the promotion of Probus in the towns or cities, or whatever, to do what? You know, if you get people that are interested in Probus and the thing, how do we harness their interest?
Yeah.
Well, the problem, I guess, Rob, is that in Wales and in UK, there is no central body to actually do it. So that becomes difficult. Whereas in Canada, South Africa, Belgium, there's actually a central body that can actually begin to focus and say, well, we could start a club in that area, or if there's that kind of interest. So for us, it's a lot easier than probably anywhere else in the UK. And I'd probably ask Stan, because I noticed Stan's there from Scotland, and the answer would probably be the same. What do you do? The thing that we find too is that when we look at the stats from the UK, which is where it came from, the majority of your clubs are single-sex male clubs.
Yep.
Very few of them are combined, men and women type clubs. Whereas in Australia, the majority of our clubs are combined clubs rather than single-sex clubs. And of course, we have Sildana and PSPL. So if people ring up and say, I want to join a Probus club or whatever, then if there's enough demand, they can say, well, we need to start one in that area, and they can actually begin the machinery to do that.
That's fantastic. And yes, we are definitely missing that. And I'm sure Stan will confirm that. We are, Probus, as far as I'm concerned, is a completely autonomous body in each club. And the idea of you having a central organization like Sylvana does is wonderful news. And I wish we could do that over here in the UK.
Well, I mean, as one of our people described it, we're probably fortunate to have an umbrella, and I'm sure if Nick's clubs, or his 26 clubs, realise the value of his being an umbrella over the top of them, right, to actually be able to provide that information. And I'm quite sure Bob gets a little bit of flack every now and again, about, Probus Canada and, taking all this money from us, etc. But what they don't realise is the service that actually is given to them. And you probably don't know, what they say, you don't know what you miss until you don't have it. And that's probably the issue too. So the Probus Day, the Probus Month, remember, is really there to focus the community, their attention for at least a day a month or whatever you're going to do on Probus as a service to seniors, retirees and whatever. It gives you an opportunity, right, to then say to your clubs, we're going to use this as a marketing opportunity. We've got a day a month that we know that we can lead up to. We've got 12 months from now to do that again in 2022. So you get the opportunity then to build Probus, right, in the area. I see it. It's a very good tool, right, albeit an artificial one that we're creating, but a very good tool to actually bring the spotlight onto Probus so that those people who say, I've never heard of it, or I don't know what it does. It gives you the opportunity to actually shine the light on you and what Probus does. I think I'd commend every club to think about doing something seriously for 2022.
I can make a clarification on one or two things here. As far as Probus Canada, our clubs are autonomous in the sense that they decide on how they're going to operate. The one thing we have in common, every club has the same constitution.
Yeah.
So there's contradictions, can be. But just a very quick breakdown. We have 253 clubs. 43 are women's, 38 are men's, and 172 are combined. And just as I know it's quite different for South Pacific. However, our charge per member is between $2.50 and $3 a member for each club member. Sounded like a reverberate.
Somebody's got their up.
Here,
Just let me talk a little bit about one of the programs that Probus Global just instituted. And that's a country or region coordinator. We have 3 countries on board at this particular point. But for the UK, Scotland, Wales, Britain, or wherever, our program is to set up a communication channel for those clubs. And hopefully with the Probus Global incentive to have clubs starting to communicate, maybe there will be a little bit of structure coming down the road. I know Nick in South Africa has really taken that program to heart, and he is talking to his membership about joining Probus Global, so there will be continuous communication. Here in Canada, Marlene Pierce, who is a member of the Probus Canada board, has agreed to take on the coordinator role for Canada. And we had our first meeting, she had our first meeting on September the 14th. Marlene, maybe you want to talk a little bit about the program and where you are?
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Well, afternoon or evening. Actually, I am from Moncton, New Brunswick, Canada, which is on the east coast of Canada on the Atlantic Ocean. And I belong to 2 clubs, Women's Club in Moncton, which has 350 members. And I belong to a combined club in Shediac, New Brunswick, and that has about 120 people. And that Shediac club is right on the ocean, and they are known as the lobster capital of the world. So I was invited to join the management team of Probus Global to be the Canadian coordinator. And so Probus Global is recruiting members to act as regional coordinators for the clubs in their countries. And as Richard said, the goal is to increase communication within their country and to have this activity coordinated on a global basis through Probus Global. And members from Ireland and South Africa and Canada, which is myself, have already committed to this position. And Richard said we did have our first coordinator meeting, and it was held September the 14th, and we recorded it, and it is available on the website if you'd like to see it. So if you have an interest in submitting your name as a coordinator for your country, just get in touch with myself or Richard, and we'll certainly be happy to speak with you. And I think this is a start in the right direction for bringing your clubs together, especially in the UK, if you're trying to form something that brings more clubs together, but keeps them autonomous.
Thank you, Marlene. You know, the great thing about this is the communication. And as we're doing today, it gives these clubs an opportunity to learn from each other. And, you know, all these clubs tend to be an island. And if we can get them starting to communicate and understand, you know, what is happening in their regions and their areas, it'll just enhance what we're talking about. And really, we talk about coordinator role, but really it's a marketing program. It's how do we get to more members? How do we get them involved? And how do they talk to their neighbors? So it's a new program. So we're looking for people to jump on board, help us out. If you don't have the time yourself, please look around you. And there's other people that are involved in Probus that I'm sure would like to contribute in to grow the Probus world. One of the parts that we're communication once again. Getting people involved. We have a question off the day. And Peter, do you want to talk a little bit about that and how it's been reacting around the world and how people are communicating?
Sure, Richard. Let's lighten this thing up a little bit here. I'm in charge of having some fun instead of serious conversations. So we noticed that people were not coming to the website all that much, and thought about how to maybe get more people involved in coming. So I think I've shared my screen now, and before I go on to the question, there are two important buttons here. If you're at this meeting or watching the YouTube video and you're not a member, come and click this button and join, because it's really very simple to do. Very short questionnaire to answer. And if you are a member of Probus Global and you come to the website, click this button to invite a friend, because I'm sure you know somebody else who would like to be here. So the idea was somehow to get people to come to the website a little bit and have a little bit of fun with it. And something I've done with another group was have a question of the week. And I do not promise that this question will be every week, but question of every week or so. And basically it just gets sent out by email to those who want to receive it. And the question this particular week is, what is one small thing you do to make yourself happier? And of course, I will type in that I attend Probus Global Zoom meetings, because there we go. It's making me happy today. And submit that. But of course, you can look back to the questions from before. The answers are anonymous if you're answering before the answers are revealed, and then none of the answers get revealed till the end of the week when we find out. The first question was, what song takes you back, and where does it take you? And so the answers are in now, and I have to blame somebody here who put this Runaway song by Del Shannon up, because it's been my earworm now for over a month, and I can't seem to get rid of it. It's that intro, I think. It just captures me. But if you want to listen to everything that was answered as a suggested song, I created a playlist, and by clicking on one link, which makes for some good background music for dinner. Interesting responses, some that you might expect. A lot of Elvis and songs from different years. The one I couldn't figure out, trying to find it now. Oh, Take Me Back to Dear Old Blighty. That was a bit strange. And Wuthering Heights was a bit strange. And the pub with no beer. I don't know. It seems like the Australians all seem to remember the pub with no beer.
That must be a Belgian one.
We have a Belgian one. Okay, well, at any rate, it's quite enjoyable. And of course, now you can type your comments in or add your own references later on. The next question was, what's your favorite comfort food? And some Canadian is going to have to explain why mac and cheese is a comfort food, but that seemed to work for some people. Sushi for others, pizza for a lot of people, a lot of chocolate, potato chips. Smoked oysters seems to be a Botswana thing, and various what you might expect for comfort foods. Interestingly, toad in the hole, I wasn't aware that toad in the hole meant different things in different countries. I always thought it was sausages and Yorkshire pudding, but somehow in the US it means an egg fried in a hole of bread, which we refer to as gypsy one-eye, but we're not allowed to do that anymore. And then I looked it up on Google, and there are 66 different ways to refer to an egg in toast. And finally, last week was who would you invite to your ideal dinner party? And of course, it would make for an interesting party. At any rate, I will leave up the question for those who weren't aware of this to fill in for a few more days, and then we'll move on to another one. And if you want to suggest some questions, here's your opportunity to ask all 600 and whatever we're at, 40 members right now, a question about Probus Global or about something you'd just like to know what they would like to know about.
Peter, there's a question on our chat line about your discussion here. Okay, what happened to it? Oh, from Ken and Kathy Clark to everyone. Is there a way you can share these questions, the answers with our club members without them being a member of Probus Global?
well, the answer is make them become a member of Probus Global. No, right now the questions and answers are for members only, and that's because the conversation afterwards does include the identification of who is in the chat, and what we do is you don't get to find out who all the other members are at Probus Global without becoming a member yourself, just to afford a little bit of privacy there. On the other hand, I'm not going to worry about copyright. If you're a member and you want to go and cut and paste all of those questions and answers and send them to your club, nobody's going to be unhappy about it, and we'll be quite happy to share. And just be sure you tell them where they came from Probus Global, so they can come back. As for tabulating the results there, Dennis, I think about that. But when I get a 25 or 27-hour day, I might see if I can do some of that. But yes, when it gets to be something I'm curious about, I'll do that. And since the answers are all there, anybody who feels like it could certainly go and do that for me and fill it into the chat below. Are there any other questions?
I guess not on your question of the week. One other of the communications programs that we're working on for Probus Global is developing a armchair travel coordinator. We are at our program is we'd have different areas of the world given a period of time, maybe over 30 days. So people can come in and learn a little bit more about the area. We are very thankful we have a volunteer to start the program off, and that's going to be Wales. And Robert Scott has said yes, he would like to be part of the program. He's got a very good friend, Rufus, I think, right, Robert Rufus? And he is a true blue Welshman, and they are ready to go once we get the program set up, that anybody in Probus Global that wants to learn a little bit more about Wales and the opportunities of being there and their culture and so on and so forth, that'll be on our website. Where we are right now, we got to figure out the logistics of doing this so that we can put it up on our website and get Robert up and running. So that'll be coming very soon to your Probus Global around the world. So as soon as I mentioned, as soon as the logistics and we'll figure out how we're going to do it, it'll be in the next week or so. We'll have that up and running.
Richard, one of the ways that it works with U3A is that they get somebody to do a presentation about a trip that they've done, and then others share if they've been to the same location. And that can be done, again, I would think online, by inviting some people to actually do a presentation. So, for example, about Wales, Robert may be able to get some people, Probus members in Wales, to put together or to join him in a Zoom meeting about Wales, and then invite people who've travelled to Wales in the past. We can't all travel at the minute, but to maybe put in some comments about their travel to Wales.
Yeah. As Rob is saying, it's a concept we're working on. Certainly we have the interest level. It's just a matter now of just facilitating it and getting it up and running. Any other thoughts or questions?
Interestingly, Mike Pallas from London, you mentioned clearly earlier that there are a lot of Probus groups in the UK. I mean, I vaguely know about all of them, and I've copied information about this to a couple of clubs. But I think the reality is the UK is just very insular. Ours is a male-only club. We've had a couple of votes on whether women should be let in, and the conclusion has always been no, because it's an old boys' lunch club, and that's what we want to stay. However, the numbers are dropping right off. We're getting smaller. The options for us are clearly to merge with other clubs, or they are to let women in, which would expand it. Because of our age group and our generation, there are a lot more women around than there are men, and also women join things. Men tend to not join things unless there's a real reason, i.e. their football club or their woodwork club or something. Whereas an old boys lunch club, a bit more iffy. My wife belongs to quite a few things and goes to quite a few things. I could go to them, but there's no point in me going. I want to do separate things to her and vice versa. Otherwise, what are we going to talk about? So, there's all of this. We could put a UK coordinator together, but I would question, other than potentially getting new members, what it would actually do. Because we're all autonomous. We all think we've got best practice. We all think we're doing the best trips. We all think we're having the best speakers. It's very difficult to share things unless you have a real need. Now, you guys aboard Canada, I can't believe a meeting with 300 people. Seems almost uncontrollable. How does anybody say anything? If you give everybody a minute to speak, you've got a 5-hour meeting. I mean, it's compared with our 20 or so, it's a completely different scene. And it's given me a lot of thought, but I don't know really how we in Enfield would build on it.
Richard, if I could ask your indulgence, I need to go.
If it's of any interest, this is David Bradshaw from Banstead Probus in North Surrey in England. We have an biannual forum of around about 10 or 12 of the Probus clubs, where we actually exchange notes about speakers and activities. But Mike's absolutely right. The numbers are declining, and I think an increasing number of Probus clubs are actually now admitting women simply to stay in existence. I'm aware of at least one in my area that's had to do that.
Yeah, it's Nick here. I have to echo this, David and Mike. We are in exactly the same situation in South Africa. Exactly the same.
We in Wales have actually combined. We are a mixed club, and unfortunately, I have to agree with Mike in every way. Some of the clubs near to me have reduced in numbers that much that they've folded, and we've been fortunate to a couple of pieces of a few. But it is very difficult to understand how Canada does it or whatever. But I have to say that I agree with Mike and indeed with Nick, who's agreeing as well. It's we are having a hard time in the UK.
I have a point, if I can throw something in here. I was looking at the Google search results that led people to arrive at the Probus Global website. And the most common search that brings people there is, where is there a Probus club near me in the UK? And that really points out that the lack of a UK organization or even a well-curated list, which is another question I'd like to talk about. It means that people are having trouble finding the clubs. There are people who want to join Probus, who've heard about Probus, and they're still trying to reach the clubs. I'm also finding recently, since Shirley is no longer with us, Shirley Roberts was our membership coordinator, and for, I don't know, maybe 20 odd years, she curated a list of all of the UK clubs. And that was a very important task, which has now kind of fallen to nobody. And it would be great if somebody from the UK would be interested in taking over that role. But I'm finding a lot of people are showing up on the Probus Global website, finding reference to a club in their town and sending me a message saying, you know, when do you meet, or questions about the club, which I can't answer because I'm really not in contact with them. So that's something somebody from the UK might think about, is how to help us out with that particular part of what Probus Global has been doing.
Well, there is a website which has got a list of the Probus clubs that people can go to, and most of them are hyperlinked to an email address or a membership secretary or something like that. So yeah, it does exist, but I do agree with you. We're not very good at promoting Probus as an organization. I mean, I got into Probus simply by putting in Probus and my town into Google and seeing what came up. And as it happens, the one that came up wasn't my local one, but one that was much better at publicizing themselves.
Yeah, that's exactly the case. There are certainly clubs that have websites and are on the lists. And I've been looking at the various lists. I mean, we have something like 1,500 clubs in the UK on our list, and some of the other lists of UK clubs have 120 clubs. So the lists are very incomplete, but the majority do not have any kind of website. And it's only by Shirley's emailing these people from time to time and updating the phone numbers and addresses that our list has been kept up to date.
I think, again, we have to point out how different we all are from Australia, New Zealand to the UK. And in Canada, again, just to reflect on a few of those or comment, say in the last 8 to 10 years, only combined clubs have been, we've only gained new clubs as combined. We've had several of the older clubs they're giving up their charter, mainly for the same reason they all experienced recruitment to management teams. You can have 300 members, and funny, nobody wants to be the VP and the P in the past. And that seems to be the biggest challenge for so many of our clubs. And when it comes to 1,500 clubs, it's just hard to imagine. When we have 253, they're all on our website, and anybody can search a map throughout any part of Canada. Curiously enough, Probus Canada has one club in the state of Maine in the United States. And that's because Rotary crossed borders. So we do have one club that's part of Atlantic Canada, and that club is still part of Probus Canada. But just to, again, our biggest problem seems to be recruitment to management committee. And in order to reach out to people, as was said earlier, the whole purpose of the celebration, Australia, New Zealand, what an incredible day that was. I mean, I'm so impressed with the presentation, is the promotion. And I personally only belonged to Probus when I moved to a town called Collingwood in Ontario. I lived in Brampton, Ontario. They had 7 clubs there. I never even knew it existed. And all around me were people that were retired. I had no idea. I moved here, just happened to meet someone who was a member because they were like me, a retired teacher. It's still the problem is communication, getting that out, promotion. How do we do it? It's just, that seems to be the challenge. It's amazing. And yet once somebody hears about it and joins us, they are so grateful. But that seems to be, how do we sell it? How do we promote it? How do we get more and more people aware? And it seems to be such a simple thing, but it's such a challenging thing. And I hear it from everybody here. Yes, go ahead.
But question, when people ask to join after such a get to know event, do you always accept them as members?
Our biggest challenge right now is creating new clubs because so many clubs do not want a wait list. When you have 300 members, they don't want 320. And I mentioned earlier, I'm in a town of 22,000. There are 10 Probus clubs here. I have a wait list of people who can't get on a wait list to form an 11th club. We actually have my challenge for my own particular district isn't, it seems to be, we need more clubs, but I would like to say yes, if somebody would like to join, but I have actually a file behind me with a list of people who live in my town because none of the clubs right now are taking new members. So that's how sad it is. I might have to create an 11th club where I live here.
That's a good problem to have, Bob. Need to create an 11th club.
Yeah.
That's a good problem to have.
There are a couple of my women's clubs. Some people wait 2 to 3 years to get into it.
Yeah.
Send them to London.
We also said, well, why can't you give all these lists until we form either a new club or a club that doesn't have the 300, has 180. They're now up to 220. So there is cooperation. The other thing I think is important, I'm sure it does happen in the UK and in Australia, is if you have 3 or 4 clubs in a particular town, they really are cooperating. The other thing we try to do is if clubs do have newsletters, they're shared to all the clubs. So in my district, I have 31 clubs. Every newsletter from that is shared with the other 30 clubs. And it's amazing the ideas they get, because I think someone said earlier, we all think we belong to the best club. We have the best speakers. And I say, yes, you're right. When I'm there, you are the best club. And I say that to the next club. You are a member of the best club, because we all want to think that way. So we have our own.
We encourage that, if I may, Bob. We encourage that actively. We have a recruitment strategy or a membership strategy that we've been working with clubs for a number of years now, where we encourage clubs to meet in clusters in their local area, and they share activities, speakers for some of those clubs that are reducing in size. You know, they find it difficult to fill a bus or fill an activity. Exactly. And so they're sharing all of that stuff, and that brings vibrancy to the club, because we want them. Some clubs are more successful than others in recruitment strategies or in leadership, and so if they share and pool their successes and their challenges with us, providing some guidance as well, you know, we find that helps them. But it is getting a little bit late now, so I would like to say goodbye to everybody. I want to thank you so much for embracing Probus Day as well, and for sharing all of that information. And I look forward to seeing the rest of the recording when I get a chance. But happy Probus Day to everybody, and it was lovely to see you all again.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye, Brenda.
Bye.
Could I just jump in here with a question? I think this is a worldwide organization, U3A, which seems to be a lot more vibrant, a lot more active in South Africa than Probus has been. So we always get asked the question, well, you know, I'm a member of U3A. What does Probus offer me over and above U3A? And
what is U3A?
Yeah.
What is U3A?
Okay, maybe
University
this
of the Third Age.
Right, and I don't know whether it's just a South African organization or whether it's global.
Global. Certainly in the UK, it's a very vibrant organization.
Yes.
But it tends to operate in small groups focused on particular topics like military history and photography, chess, and things like that. So it's more of a cluster of small groups that actually sort of from a particular area, unlike Probus. I think one of the problems that Probus may just have is the lack of focus. What is Probus all about? I mean, it provides a sort of social need, but one of my thoughts is that when people are newly retired, they probably don't need Probus. You know, they've got their families and what have you. It's only in later years when they start to miss the social element, but at that time, they probably are not in a position to go forward and start new things. Somehow we do need to be seen to be much more welcoming, I think. I was intrigued by the comment that about 300 members in a branch. I mean, we have a cap simply because the number of people we can seat in a dining room.
Right.
Yeah, I think
we still need some kind of, call it a sizzle sentence or whatever, that sets us apart from something like a U3A. From what I understand about U3A in South Africa, it tends to be a geographically centered group around various centers, but out of that there would be sub-interest groups and various other things around that, which, you know, our clubs aren't really big enough here to facilitate that sort of thing. They tend to be typically once a month meeting with lunch and maybe an outing to some place of an interest and maybe a coffee morning. And that's basically the standard that we have in South Africa across the board.
My understanding is that University of 3A is hence the word university, is a learning process. In my woodwork club, there's a guy who teaches how to grind glass. So you sign up for a 5-evening course at the U3A to grind and engrave glasses. It's a learning, or as a presentation that would teach you something. Probus is meant to be, from why I joined, is exactly what everybody says. It's a social thing to meet other people of my vintage, to have a lunch, to talk, not be so lonely, and have a chance to get out. We run trips, we ran a lot of things, visits to museums, Air Force museums, you name it, tend to be military because it's old boys again. That's what the whole point was, to do things. And providing you continue to do that, people will join it. And that was the purpose, really, a social thing for older men. Now, if you mix it all up, it's a social thing for older people. Fair enough. That's what it is, and you'll attract people.
Yeah, sure.
Brenda, you wanted to say something? Brenda?
Yeah. Does U3A, do they have speakers as well?
Yes, very much so.
Well, so why don't you try taking a delegate from Probus England and going and speaking to their clubs and telling them about Probus?
We could do that. One of the people, I don't know whether Chris Trone is still on, he is a U3A presenter. And clearly we take every opportunity to try and recruit people. We go to local grammar schools when they have older people's forums. We put stuff up in doctors' waiting rooms. You know, old people go to the doctors a lot. If you're lonely and want to go to Probus, you know, prior to COVID, obviously now in the UK, you can't see a doctor. It's another thing, you know, nobody sees a doctor. It's all by phone. So we put notices up, we put notices in the stations so that if people aren't getting on a train, you know, Probus, tell people about it. We locally at Enfield have tried a lot of things to recruit people, and we do get some, but our members, unfortunately, as I said, we've come down from about 28 when I joined to about 15 now, which is not too good.
Oh dear, that's dangerous. You're getting below the critical mass there.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, can I just say on U3A and presenting to U3A, the demographic of the U3A is 75% of women. And if you're representing a Probus group, which is men only, they're not particularly receptive when you go along and say, well, look, 3/4 of you can't come along and 1/4 of you might be able to come along.
Yeah, it's not an easy solution, but
okay, thanks guys. Thank you.
It is a challenge. It really is.
Yeah.
For everybody,
Well,
not just the men's club, but even for the combined club.
Yeah.
And I find that most people that join a Probus club come with a friend. All the advertising in the world, it does help a little bit, of course, but it's bringing a friend that makes the person want to join the club and seeing what the club's all about. I mean, if you show it that it's fun for seniors, then they're going to join. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 of my family have joined already because of me. Well, I twist their arms, but they do enjoy it.
Okay, it's really coming down to, it is a social situation, social club, and certainly that's what it's all about. So, hearing some of the issues today from around the world, it goes back to that big word, communication. We need to get, whether it's for Probus Day, Probus Month, or getting people involved, it's communication. And as Probus Global, that's one of the things we'd like to achieve. So we create more communication, not only within country, but around the world. So we're getting there. This is our 3rd meeting this year from a standpoint of having people from around the world, and we'll continue doing that. And we'll have another follow-up general meeting sometime in the next quarter. And our newsletter will be coming out. I have to talk to Rob a little bit about timing, but please, as we request articles, please get your comments out there. We like to hear some of the comments we heard today. get them out there so we can put them in our newsletter and get them around the world. So if there's no other questions or comments, I guess we can call it a day or an evening in some cases.
Excellent.
Dick, if I may just say that one of the things in listening to the various members chatting today, about 50% of our clubs in Canada have less than 125 members. And typically we get about 60 or 65% of our membership out to a meeting. So the typical meeting is not the 300 or 600, it's probably 90 to 110 or so. And that does make it easier to chat. I think one of the things I would like to see from Probus Global is hearing more of the successes as we did today with Silvana and talking about how the new clubs were opening, how they formed them, how they came about. And I think if we find different ways that that's working successfully around the globe, then we can incorporate it in our own countries to move ahead and have more clubs.
Thank you, Jamie. That's very good. That's once again, that big word, communication. Let's get people talking and understanding where we're the format around the world. That's the one thing I picked up on the day. We're all so different. So the second.
I have Art Dunbar on the phone. He wants to know if anyone had issues. Have they totally shut down? His computer has totally shut down.
Okay.
Has anyone else had issues? He's on the phone.
Yeah. Okay. Nobody else.
It's him then.
Sorry about that. One of our participants today just called and said he's having trouble getting reconnected. So communications are working, folks.
Thank you, Richard.
Yeah.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you.
Excellent session.
Thank
Have a
you.
wonderful
Very
everyone.
much.
It was great seeing everybody again.
Okay, everybody. Have a great
Bye.
rest of your day.
Have a good night or a good day.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Coach Jay.
Nice seeing everyone.
Bye now.
Bye all.
Bye.
Bye.